All too often in our productivity forward society, I see these self improvement videos that people push on social media. It, I mean, well, it puts too much value on productivity and the things that you do, things that are outside of you, and that's great, right? But that's not self improvement. That's improving the things that you are doing in the world. That's great too, but that's not self improvement. Trust me, I've watched every single video from Ali Abdal on productivity. And every time I get into the car, I listen to Andrew Huberman, not only because he has a sexy voice, but he's genuinely smart and inspires me to do better for myself. But you start to realize after implementing all these things, and as you go and navigate through life, that the things that you do isn't all that transforming until you get your shit figured out in here and here. Listen, we've all been there, right? You wake up and you get that hit of motivation and you have a to-do list and you journal and you read and you go work out and you check off all the things you have on your to-do list and you have the most productive day you've ever had. And it feels fucking fantastic. It feels great. And it does so for maybe a day or two afterwards. And then it starts to fade away only if I had that motivation all the time. You know you have the discipline in you. It just won't keep up with you. And it sucks. It's pretty shitty. And you start doubting yourself and you have all these thoughts going through your head. And the worst part of it is that it's a cycle. It happens, the high happens, and the lows. Not just once. Again, the week after, the month after. It's frustrating. It's exhausting. It's like mental torture of like knowing you have so much potential, but you keep falling short. I feel like I'm ranting a little bit here. I am ranting, but I'm not even going to apologize for it. Like, I know you guys know what I'm talking about here. And so this video is going to be about my 3 personal pillars that I have implemented to truly improve myself from the inside out. And it has really helped me feel so much more fulfilled and give me so much clarity in my life. Without further ado, the first pillar that I want to talk about with you guys is self-awareness. It's the first pillar because it's the most foundational pillar. It's simply just a matter of not being able to improve upon something or fix something that you don't simply understand. And this pillar is all about learning yourself at a deep, deep level, understanding yourself and your beliefs and your behaviors and your reactions and patterns that make up who you are. Have you ever found yourself reacting to something in a way that you didn't appreciate looking back on it later? Like, why did I react? Why did I do that? Like, maybe you snapped at your partner, or, you're being too hard on yourself and you're just overwhelmed with this self-doubt. Those are the moments when self-awareness is missing, and trying to grow without that awareness is like shooting an arrow in the dark. Like, so in this pillar, one practice I tend to gravitate towards, and it's not even a practice, sometimes you do this ever so often, where you just sort of see yourself from a third person perspective, almost like you're thinking about the thoughts, like the thoughts that are being thoughted are being thought. Too many thoughts around here. Like, one sec. What is it called when you're thinking about your thoughts? Okay, so there is a name for it. When you are thinking about your own thoughts, it's called metacognition. So there you go. That's what I'm talking about. Metacognition. Sounds profesh, doesn't it? Makes me sound more credible. I should have done more research before this. Yeah, metacognition. Essentially, you're just, taking a step back and reviewing your thoughts. Why are they here? Where are they coming from? And what am I going to do with them? Now, I understand all this psychology, the spiritual being, consciousness thing is way out of my forte here. But there is a really good book. You guys may be familiar with Eckhart Tolle. He's the author of, I have this book here, The New Earth, A New Earth. He also wrote, what was his first book? Power of Now. He also wrote The Power of Now. Eckhart Tolle in his books presents this idea of metacognition very cleverly by really distinguishing the word self in 2 different ways, with a capital S and one with a lowercase s. And one resembles your consciousness as an observer, and the other your egoic, I am this, I am that, this identity. Anyway, so I found a quote in one of his books that really captures the essence of, being an observer of this mind that is constantly talking to you. He says, the moment you realize you're not your thoughts, but the awareness behind them, you break free from the ego's grip and step into the vastness of your true self. It's that little voice in your head, that tells you you're not good enough. This always happens to you. But truly, you're not that voice. You're just the one hearing it. So to really boil it down and give you something tangible and familiar, it's really about noticing overreacting. And when you practice and master this, self-awareness and noticing things, you build this internal compass within you essentially that gives you the ability to navigate life through intention as opposed to impulse. And when you shift the way you interact with yourself and your thoughts like that, you will instantly see that ripple effect into the way you interact with the world and the people around you and the connections that you make. Which brings me to my second pillar, which is, we as social human creatures are wired for connection. We all know that, but to go deeper, like what kind of connections? Now, the way I see the importance of connections is when you explore self-awareness within the confines of your own perception and your conscience, the boundaries to which you can explore that self-awareness is really limited to your own perception. And then some, the more you get to know yourself better. But like, for example, you ever notice how much easier it is to spot someone else's blind spots or faults or weaknesses, but it's almost impossible to find your own? That's why connections are crucial. Interacting with others, especially with someone you have a really deep connection with, will enable you to see parts of yourself that you may have overlooked. And if you still overlook it, hopefully these are friends that you have that will call you out on those things without hesitation. Now, this is all to say that establishing meaningful connections require you to inherently navigate the world inside of you that is your emotional intelligence. I remember a time when a friend called me out for being sort of distant with them. And, at first I was defensive, like, oh no, like it's not my problem. But, after a while I leaned into this empathetic side of, I wonder why he was feeling the way he was feeling. And I realized they were right. And I was just avoiding this hard conversation that I didn't want to have. Take a moment to think about your closest relationships. I'm sure it requires a lot of patience when things get tense, or a lot of empathy when someone else is hurting, or vulnerability when it's time to open up. And these qualities aren't just something that's like a trait or a personality that you're just born with. Like these are emotional muscles that you need to actually apply, and they grow stronger over real life interactions with the people around you. Are you guys familiar with that Harvard study on adult development and happiness? Like when I first heard that, this was a study that started in like 1930s or something, I was like, holy shit, this is going to be the most interesting study that I've ever read in my life. Like I'm going to learn so much. This is just decades of research on happiness. But after all that research, the takeaway was so simple yet profound. Now, this study is considered to be the groundfathering work of modern psychology on adult development and happiness, and it's one of the most cited studies in this field. And its key findings have repeatedly over decades have suggested that the clearest predictor of health, happiness, and longevity is the quality of your close relationships. And to me, that's a very compelling and strong enough reason that this all would tie into inner growth. So yes, inner growth starts here, but it's not just an inside job. It's something that we co-create with the people that we are connected with. So I'll end this pillar with a question for you guys. When was the last time you had a conversation with someone that made you see yourself differently? And now on to my third and final pillar. And if you guys have stuck around this far, first of all, thank you. But second of all, you guys are in for a treat because this is about to get real personal. And I hope it's something that you guys can all relate to. So my personal struggle for as long as I can remember was just not being able to find my why, my one thing, my calling, I didn't have this vision of what my life was going to look like. And I was so desperate. I was so desperate to find this thing that we call purpose. And I thought that, once I had that, everything was going to be all right and I wasn't going to be miserable anymore. And this is something that I've only recently learned, and I'm still working on as I go through life. But, this light bulb moment for me was realizing that purpose isn't something that you find. It's something that you build over time and you cultivate. And it's something that you cultivate because it has nothing to do with the things that you do, but it has everything to do with who you choose to be and how you choose to live your life. So yes, if you haven't guessed already, the third and final pillar is purpose. It's about purpose, but it's not about finding that purpose as if it's the single grand goal that is achieved. What I really want to convey here is trying to reframe that understanding of purpose. Thinking about all this sounded a little familiar. And then I realized it was this forgotten lesson from my personal traditionally Japanese upbringing of this idea of ikigai. And no, I'm not talking about this ikigai or this one that is just sort of thrown around on social media nowadays. Growing up in a Japanese household, ikigai wasn't this like hyper optimized like productivity, like find your dream career. It wasn't this like productivity tool. The truth is, it's very far from that. Actually, it's almost even an opposite of that. The true essence of ikigai, the way I grew up with, it's the little things. It's a practice. It's a gratitude practice of noticing the little things in life that make life worth living. It's really just as simple as looking up and noticing how scrumptious the clouds look, or when you smile to a stranger walking past and you just feel warm from the inside because that could have made someone's day. Now, I recently came across this video on Instagram by this user, Sakura Koster. I hope I'm saying your name right, but she essentially perfectly describes this problem of how this nuanced Japanese philosophy that both her and I grew up with has been westernized into this, productivity tool. And it's a great video if you want to watch it for yourself to be educated on things like this. But what I want to highlight in this video is a quote she found from Mieko Kamiya, which is known to be the mother of Ikigai, one of the first academics to have first studied this philosophy. And this quote here, as Sakura alluded to, really captures the essence of what Ikigai is. And this is what it reads.
When we wake from sleep, we are greeted by the morning. We did not create the morning. It somehow came to give us the chance to live another day. We wake up and discover the morning. The meaning of life is like the morning.
I've said this almost too many times throughout this video, but I'm going to say it again. This isn't about the things that you do. This isn't about changing the world or the impact that you leave or this legacy that's left behind. Because I don't think life should be appreciated only when looked back upon. Like you're lying in your deathbed, realizing you lived a great life. Is that truly a great life? And to that age-old question of what is the meaning of life? That question to me subtly insinuates that, life is a means to an end. There's this grand finish line at the end that you're supposed to find. And in thinking about Ikigai, what it reminds me time and time again is that life isn't that. It's not a means to an end. It's not something that should be lived through to reach a final goal. It's something that should be lived in. In every present moment, it should be lived in. And that this meaning in life, this purpose, is something that you cultivate through each and every single one of those present moments that you live in. It's this ever-changing, dynamic landscape inside of you. And having that self-awareness, as we talked about, and connection. And lastly, this understanding and reframing this idea of purpose as almost gratitude for the life that you get to live in today is what will enable you to get to live another day and have this fulfillment and clarity, as opposed to having to live another day. These pillars aren't just concepts or skills that, you can apply whenever fits you best. These are living practices. These are lifestyles. These are life decisions that you make. And the best part of all of this, truly, if there's anything that I want you to take away from this video, is that you don't need to know exactly what your purpose is in order to live your life purposefully. Well, if any part of my rant today has resonated with you, please let me know in the comments below. Leave a like, and maybe let me know which one of these pillars are you currently working through, are you currently experiencing and navigating in your own self journey. And as always, thank you for being here. Much love to you, and see you all in the next video. Ciao.